Good morning, everyone. My name is Idris, and I'm one of the product managers in altHR here in DGX. For today's webinar, we'll be talking about shifting mindsets, leading teams in the new normal, together with our guests, Angie Seng and Nahulen. This is a third in a series of webinars brought to you by altHR, Digi's super app for companies. Throughout the webinar, please feel free to ask your questions, and we will answer them during the Q&A session at the end. If you haven't already, make sure you check in through the QR code above or through the form link in the description below so we can send you more information about this webinar. We'll start by doing a quick intro on altHR. altHR is Digi's HR super app that offers more than just HR solutions. It supports Malaysian companies to go above and beyond in digitalizing their HR processes. altHR features are built to fit in the new normal, be it managing work remotely or diving back into leading at the workplace. Some of the modules in altHR include people data management, leads, expense claims, document manager, time tracking, and many more. As we recently launched altHR in June, we have a special launch promo for companies to use altHR for free until 31st December 2020. altHR is also one of the solutions that Digi provides under the SME Digitalisation Grant, together with Omni, our virtual office system on an app, and DSMS, a text marketing broadcast system. Speaking about the SME Digitalisation Grant, Digi has been identified as one of the selected technology solutions providers, TSPs, by MDEC to support the SME Digitalisation Grant. A little bit about the SME Digitalisation Grant. In conjunction with Budget 2020, MOF, or the Ministry of Finance, started this grant to help and incentivize SMEs in speeding up digitalization in their daily operations. This is a matching grant. That means that it isn't a complete subsidy to purchase a digital solution, but instead, if your application is successful, you'll receive up to 50% for a maximum of 5,000 ringgit. If your invoice is more than 10,000 ringgit, the maximum you will receive is still 5,000 ringgit. There is no repayment needed, so in a way, you can think of it as a 50% discount to help ease your entry into digitalization. Now, on to our main event. Introducing our first speaker, Angie Seng. With over a decade of experience in HR, Angie is currently the head of employee experience under Digi's HR division and oversees the service delivery and talent acquisition teams. Our second speaker, Nahulen, is a customer success lead here at DGX and manages relationships with our SME and enterprise customers with his team. So, before we begin, tell us about yourselves. Let's start with Angie.
Hi,
Hi,
Idris.
Angie.
My name is Angie, and I've been with Digi for approximately 7 years now, handling different portfolios from time to time. So, as you rightfully said, my current role is to lead the employee experience team in Digi.
All right, thanks for sharing, Angie. Tell us more about yourself, Nahulen.
Hi, Idris. Thank you. And hi, everyone. My name is Nahulen. I am the Customer Success Lead at DGX. Great to have everyone here.
All right, thank you. All right, let's start with the questions. First, Angie, how did your company respond to MCO and having to work from home?
Right. So fortunately for us in Digi, right, we have had several simulations of scenario planning that started a couple of years ago. So a cross-functional team was actually set up in Digi to just look into that particular scenario planning. There were members from the HR corporate infrastructure management team, security team, and also the communications team. It was a cross-functional collaboration. So as a result of that, right, we have a business continuity plan in place as part of a crisis management response. Back in January, February this year, where I think we had COVID-19 cases rising around the globe, the BCP was activated and all Digizens are actually assigned on Team A, Team B. I think in DGX, we even have Team C to some extent, and everybody started to work from home and work from office on a rotational basis.
Okay, thanks, Angie. How about your experience, Nahulen?
Yeah, sure. Of course, this whole COVID thing took everyone almost by surprise. But I think in terms of the management side, kudos to the team that they prepared us for this even before it happened. So even with Digi itself, we were told, okay, look, the possibility is there, but if it does happen, you guys need to be aware that you will be working from home, but it should still be status quo. You should still be able to check into work online, do all this different tracking systems that are there just to make sure everything's okay. So I think the message that came down from management was very clear, and employees were very clear about what was expected to happen as well.
Thank you, Nalin. Speaking about that, are there any tools in particular that your company is using to help employees work better in this new normal?
Yeah,
Should I start first? Or Nalin go first?
Okay, Ken. Yeah, no, for sure. Of course, working from home brings its whole set of other challenges, right? You've got, when you're married, you've got your spouse, you've got your kids, you've got the whole other level of management that needs to happen at home as well. So I think it's really about making sure that you are prepared, or your company prepares you enough to work from home. So lots of these tools are actually available in the market. It's just whether or not the need arises for it. And I think COVID was the biggest opportunity for you to come on and take on these tools, whether it's for different purposes like altHR to manage your people working from home from the office, really, and also your communication tools with your other co-workers and colleagues, whether it's Slack, even if it is WhatsApp, as much as WhatsApp should only be used for your own things, but it helped, right? Just to get news across a bit quicker. But definitely to have a team together, I think the communication tools are most important in this place.
All right. Thank you, Nalin. How about you, Angie? What tools in particular do Digizens use?
I'm super grateful that we have actually rolled out Microsoft Office O365 suite of products like just in time. I think it was in February 2020 this year, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, to provide the super critical and yet secured video platform conferencing facility to help employees work better in this new norm. One key feature, right, in that suite of products was the Microsoft Teams video conferencing platform, which I think this is where most of us hold our daily meetings. Of course, there are other tools, but this was the tool that was endorsed by our group. And I think in some ways, on hindsight, I think we were kind of blessed by the virus in accelerating our adoption rate, in this case of this tool, justifying the investment dollars that went into it from the very beginning. Yeah, so the whole effort took about, I think, almost a year. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, thank you for sharing, Angie. Next question. How has digitalization prepared your company and employees in the face of the uncertainty around COVID-19 and to help ensure business continuity in the new normal? Angie?
I think Digi HR, right? We started our digitalization journey all the way back in 2015, right? I remember launching digital HR apps in its individual domain back in those days. And, the moment we launched it, we received so much feedback within the first 6 months. We decided that we needed a new single consolidated mobile platform where a Digizen or an employee in this case could be empowered to do his transactions within the reach of his or her own palms in that sense. And I guess that's how the situation kind of forced us, in a way, to rethink what it's like from a user journey perspective. And because, realistically speaking, we didn't have as many choices back then as today. Today, you go onto the internet, you ask Mr. Google, there are plenty of free options available, right? But we didn't have those choices back then. And I guess that's how altHR started as well. It was built in-house with very minimal cost, lots of failures, lots of learnings, lots of adaptation. And I think we started with the use case of expense and travel because we had a team of salespeople who were going all over the nation, right, in Malaysia. And then they have to come back and paste receipts and so I think they have to paste receipts and submit on an A4 paper and whatnot. So those were really the real use cases that I think today it is as simple as taking a picture of the receipt, keying in the amounts of, keying in the lines of information, the fields of data, and then off you go. and the manager receives a notification and the manager can already review. It's as simple as clicking, a few buttons. So more recently, last year in 2019, I think we incorporated the employee handbook with all the policies and also code of conduct for Digizens within altHR platform itself. And I believe that has come in handy as well during this period of the new norm, where information is crucial. And, you're talking about lots of information in policies. No one is going to read them, right? But when I need them, I just have to click a few buttons and I can read them. So, it is available at bite size anytime you want. So I think that's how I think digitalization has helped us.
Thank you for the insights, Angie. It's very helpful. Personally, I also remember when I started, I see some people filling in the papers and then putting the receipts on the paper. That was when altHR was just starting, and I think I don't see that anymore. How about you, Nahulin? How has digitalization helped your company from your experience and helps business continuity?
For sure. I think on the DGX side, at least, we're a smaller group compared if you look at the whole Digi setup itself. So if I break it down into two different bits, we've got our engagement as employees to our managers and our bosses, and also our engagement with the clients. So on the side of engaging with our management and the team, I think this is where your internal tools come in very handy. So things like altHR, of course, like Angie mentioned, submission of all your expense, your leaves, things like that. But also in terms of communicating with your manager about what are the tasks that need to be done, say for the week, for the day, for the month, and making sure that everyone's aligned and knows what's going on. So the tools are out there. So for example, we adopted a tool called Basecamp, like a project management tool for us to go through and see what are the tasks coming up. And then, of course, we've got Slack to communicate with everyone anytime, really. That's on the side with management to make sure they are clear and we are clear about what the expectation is, even though you're working from home, right? Then you've got your whole other relationship that goes on with the client. To the client, their business hasn't really stopped either, of course, depending on how they were affected by COVID, right? But if their business hasn't been affected, they would expect you to be able to still cater for whatever their needs are. So it's still making sure that you've got to bridge that gap, or that gap between you and the customer is still bridged even during this time that you're working from home. So I think one of the main things was setting up the expectation that, look, we may not be able to come over to your office anymore to come and meet you and speak, but we can definitely take up video calls depending on whatever platform that you use, whether it's Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Office 365, or if you're on Google Video, things like that, Hangouts. All this had to be ready and available. And I think we've had that opportunity to have everything ready for us to go and speak to them anytime also, so that the clients know too that you haven't just disappeared although you're working from home, right? Yeah.
And even for us to prepare webinars so that we can engage with even larger audiences.
Yeah. Exactly. StreamYard.
Thank you, Nahulin. Thank you, Angie. So before I go on to the next question, just a reminder to add your questions in the chat, and we will ask the questions to our guests during the Q&A session later. So for my next question, Nahulin, so now that it's been the RMCO, employees have started working from office now. What are the steps taken to help keep employees safe, both mentally and physically, at the workplace? You can even share a bit about how altHR helps with paperless transactions and no more passing forms for approval like that.
Yeah, for sure. Look, even to be honest with you, even on my side, ever since this whole RMCO has started, I've only been to the office twice. This goes to show as much as we can, or as much as we've done really to make sure everyone's enabled to work from home. But even when I did go back to the office, of course, in Digi itself, we've got temperature scanners, we've got all your sanitizers everywhere for you to just make sure everything is fine. And kudos to the Digi team as well, the HSC team, for making sure that they cordoned off certain areas, making sure you're still maintaining some sort of social distance, your meetings aren't large enough. So I think in that sense, this has become the new normal. I think even though COVID goes off, these things will still be in place to an extent. So I think on the safety aspect of it, we sorted ourselves out pretty well. On the mental aspect, this I will leave more onto the employee side or our colleagues itself. Everyone's got their own way of dealing with things that happen, right? So many of us in the team, actually, for example, there's Michelle from our team in DGX also. ran online classes for fitness. So if you want, you can still go and tune in to some of her classes and work out there. And there were people doing virtual lunches with teams that are not in the office, just so that you can see everyone, although everyone's not supposed to be in the same place, but you're doing it virtually anyway. So it's good. It's a good platform, or really a good way of keeping your employees engaged also, and making sure that they haven't gone insane working from home. Because of course, when you're working from home, less than maybe half an hour ago, the paper llama man went past, and you hear all that going on. Imagine during a meeting and things like that. These are all unexpected things that can come up, and you've got to deal with it on the spot. So I think making sure that everyone is aware that these things can happen, and it's really normal for you to go through these things. I think the employees itself have done really well.
Definitely, Nolan. Thanks for sharing your experience. Many people don't actually know that in Digi, our health and safety team is actually under HR. So I think Angie would be a great person to help us share when the employees work from office, what are the steps taken to keep them safe physically and mentally?
I will try it, okay, because HR is also quite huge. You're right in pointing that out. So we have firstly, we have a COVID-19 response team, right? So again, this is a team that is formed cross-functionally from HR, the corporate infrastructure management team itself, and who takes care of the office facilities, right? Just right how Nahulan pointed out. So this COVID-19 response team is formed by the CIM team, and there is also the communications team to make sure that we push out information as regular as possible, but not to the extent of overloading in that sense. So we make sure that the communications are pushed at the right channels, like through our formal Digi mail engagements, and also through our workplace, our digital workplace, right? And I think all the credits really go to this particular committee in that sense, right? The COVID-19 response team, they've done a fantastic job, and from what I know, they also receive a lot of feedback along the way, and they continue to reiterate their plans and communication approach. So this team has at least ensured that the hardware side of things is ready. So it's good to hear from Nahulan that you feel the differences, after having worked from home and then coming back to office. So it's good to know that. And then on the software side of things, I think the COVID-19 safety questionnaires, right? Which in March it started with like maybe a 1-2 pager thing. By now it's like a 5-6 pager thing. This is also to help educate employees, to be empowered to make decisions. At the end of it, at the core of it, it's your own safety that matters, because you will know what you need to do, right? So it's a lot of empowerment and a lot of information sharing. I think we are trying to do a lot with no one else but the Digizon in mind. I think when we compartmentalize the purpose to be as such, the job is not difficult. So then we need everybody in the whole ecosystem to actually work together and communicate. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Angie. I definitely want to thank the HR team and the HSE team, because I also personally feel that we're very safe in Digi's HQ. On to the next question. Angie, how are you keeping your employees engaged and empowered in the new normal? Are there any like virtual lunches, games, anything?
Yeah, so in my own team, right? I do regular huddles via the secure platform, of course, at least twice a month. So I have a team of about 15 to 18 people. So in those huddles, right, we sometimes learn something together, and sometimes we don't just talk about work. But from time to time, we share culinary failures. In this case, I'm referring to what we have failed to actually produce in the kitchen with each other, and we just laugh about each other, right? Like not laugh with you, but laugh at you kind of situation. I think in some ways, I think it has subtly also helped to build trust, right? Via the virtual platform, and over time, it kind of makes it easier to then speak about failures and unintended mistakes at work. So that has helped. So that is what I do with my own team. Then on the mass, in terms of engagement with the Digizens in that sense, which in HR, we try to work through leaders by equipping them on a weekly engagement decks on suggestion of certain topics, actually, like e-learning, birthday celebration, key messages from the company, but of course we will empower the leaders to decide if they really want to implement those ideas or not. Being the culture in Digi, right? We empower you, but it's really your decision whether you want to implement or not. It's just suggestion of topics. So that is the engagement through the leaders. And then there's another segment where we look at direct engagement with Digizens. In that sense, it's through the staying connected weekly emails, where I think since end of March or early April itself, we try to provide essential updates like insurance coverage, which is super critical at this time, government schemes launch from time to time, and how does it actually apply to individual Digizen, right? So I think in a nutshell, a lot of content curation with no one else but only the Digizen in mind. That's what we've done.
I've definitely been reading those weekly emails. They've been very helpful. Thank you. Nahulin, perhaps you can share a bit about the mystery lunches at DGX.
Yeah, for sure. I think what we've done really well over time is we've made sure that everyone still feels included, although they were working from home. And even now that we've slowly transitioned back into the office with Team A, Team B, and the occasional Team C, it's still about keeping people connected. So I think the tools have really helped us in this case. So even altHR, for the instance, in news and highlights where we post company announcements, instead of having me go onto a website or even reading my email, let's be honest, not every one of us opens up an email as soon as it comes through, right? But when it's on an app, news and highlights is right there through altHR for you to go through and read. Then the other tools, of course, your usual G Suite, your Hangouts, your Slacks, things like that. So we've even got gaming channels in our Slack channel where we talk about games, things like that, just to get people involved and speaking to each other, even though you're in different teams. So for some of us, even we've not seen each other for about 3 or 4 months, but now the next time when I see this person, I know what to talk about. It's not an awkward, hey, what happened to you in 3 months or 4 months, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's been good. So the virtual lunches, for example, even when a new person joins us, so we've done all new joining or new joiners, we've onboarded them through the app in altHR and online. So when they do come over to the company, they already know what to expect. We've got a whole onboarding kit for them to go through and see what's happening. And then as soon as they get on, virtual lunch is part of it also. So where we will all sit down in front of our computer screens, whoever's working from home, and you can hear all the munching and the chewing and the slurping, and you'll be able to see everyone eating, right? But it sort of mimics what happens in the office, where we used to, sit down by a table, everyone just goes and talks, almost like your recess time, right? It's been good. So I think besides all that, most importantly were the tools just to make sure that these things are happening. And of course, buy-in from management to know that these are important things that we need to keep doing, because we know we will come back to the office. It's just the manner of which we return. Yeah.
Thank you, Nahulin, for sharing about that. So I guess we're at our final question. We'll start with Nahulin as well. Any reflections or final words on how leaders can navigate this new normal, especially in managing their teams?
Okay. I think here it's to know that everyone's situation is a little different. It's not, you're working from home, everything should just go status quo, no problems, because everyone's got their own situation to go through, right? Whether it's the kids, whether it's your spouse, whether you've got older parents to take care of, the expectation changes. So I think as a leader, you've got to know that these things can happen. That whole aspect of being compassionate comes into play quite a bit. Of course, it's not the work needs and work requirements still have to come into play, but just to give that wiggle window of things happening, because these things are out of your control, really. Most what you can do is just make sure that things are getting done, but try to avoid micromanaging as much as possible. So again, these are where the tools come through, whether it's daily check-ins that you need to do through your different channels that you have, things like that, very important. So I think as leaders, now that we're coming back towards the office, of course, things will slowly get back to the usual, but also come with the expectation that, look, some of your employees have been working from home for a long time now. So the expectations can change. There may still be responsibilities that they have to carry out for home, even though they're in the office. So I think it's about changing that whole mindset also, and being more flexible with your employees too.
Thank you for that very empathetic answer, Nahulen. How
Mm.
about your side, Angie? Any reflections?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Nahulan because we really, as leaders, I think we really need to practice empathy in this case to each and every single team member, right? Because really, like what he said, everyone has a circumstance, and even more so during this pandemic, right? Because we do not actually know what a particular team member's family would have gone through during this crisis, right? And you will only know that by constant engagement, in understanding the individual's circumstance a little bit better, and contextualize then your response accordingly. Another reflection that I have is in this crisis, right? What it has taught me is over communication is definitely better than under communication, to drive engagement and to also ensure the team stay on course, stay healthy, not just physically but mentally also, and stay motivated. Right. Sometimes, especially for someone who needs to be locked down in a room, for instance, right? Say, for instance, we have a circumstance where someone comes from, say, outstation, and then they rent a place to stay in KL, and then they work. Work is the only thing that is keeping them engaged, and that is so important. So staying motivated, not just on work, but also on the individual's health. I think that's the core and fundamentals of it. And the last one is human beings are very capable of doing great things, right? So as individuals, I think whether we are employees or leaders, we have to stay resilient, embrace the new norm, by to keep evolving ways of work, by trying out new tools today itself. Really, don't wait for tomorrow, because we really do not know what will happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Angie. You're right.
Mm,
We can plan for today, but then tomorrow might change.
mm,
So thank you so much, both for your time and insights. I hope it helps our audience get through the new normal. It certainly gave me a lot to think about.
mm.
So now we're on to our Q&A session. Can we show our first question? Okay, so we have a question by Iza Atira. I think something that Nahulen mentioned just now. How can I manage my team without being a micromanager? Let's start with Angie.
It's a lot about building trust, right, at the core of it. So like I said just now, I had a very simple example. We share failures, right? We share failures and we laugh at each other, and in some ways, it kind of built trust. And the next time when we have to talk about unintended mistake, then it's a bit easier for the employee to open up. Likewise, similarly, if I am the one making the mistake, when I open up to my bosses, it's probably a little bit easier as well. And and I think on the leader side, we just need to be a little bit mindful that it could be a genuine situation. So pay attention to it, and find a solution together, co-solutioning in this case.
Very reassuring answer, Angie. Any
Mm,
thoughts, Nahulen?
Yeah, I think very similar. It's like Angie mentioned. I think over communication is very important instead of under communication. It's about getting everyone onto the same page, setting the expectation with the team, just so that you don't have to also keep hounding people. They tell you before you ask. So I think that's a very important part of it that would come through, and that would eliminate some level of micromanaging.
All right, great, Nahulen. I hope that answers your question, Iza. And on for the next question. So LJ Yong asked, how can you avoid getting overswarmed by info overload, especially when everything goes online or digital? Anything about that, Nahulen?
Sure. I think this is a very good question.
yes.
When you do transition over, right, to working from home, we took up quite a few new tools, and one of the tools called Basecamp, where we post everything about work, whether there's issues with customers, whether there are wins that we want to speak about. So at that one point, you get 100 different answers coming in, and although it's 30, 40 people, but different posts. So there's a lot that happens on certain platforms, even if it's Slack, even if it's on the other ones as well. So I think it's really about finding the balance. Sooner and later, you will start realizing which are the important ones you should be paying attention to, and which can be taken as almost as quick updates. So although these things are on a platform for you to read, I think it's still very important for you to have side communication or meetings with your team members, because then you start to learn what are the more pressing matters that they are dealing with. So although there might be 101 things on the online platform, but out of this 101, maybe there's only about 5 really important ones that need your attention. I think that's very important to keep in check while going through this thing, because yes, there can be a lot of information out there. It's about knowing what information needs to be actioned on now and what can be taken a bit slower.
It's all about prioritizing, right?
Yeah.
Angie?
Can I take that question too? Very
Of
passionate
course,
when
of
this
course.
question is asked because it's really a good question, right? So two parts to it. One is the tool. I think in Digi we use so altHR is one. Microsoft Office is another one. So within Microsoft Office suite of products, there's a Microsoft Planner where we can use the sprint way of work, right? Where you know just imagine physically you have a board and then you have all your stickies. This time around, you can literally transfer that into a virtual platform. So a lot of information, a lot of progress on all the initiatives and activities. But guess what? There's a feature, you can actually tag which member to read which one. So that is one way to manage who needs to know what. And then on the other side is a reality check. It's about dealing and embracing the situation and not so much in avoiding. I think these days we can't really avoid many things. It's really up to the individual to consume as well. So I think tools is the best way to help manage in this case. The mindset should be about embracing and not avoiding in this case.
All right. Thank you so much, Angie.
Mm.
Question 3. So from June JC, may I ask what's your advice on how SMEs should deal with this new normal? We have minimal resources and budgets. Yeah, that's right. Not every company is fortunate like Digi. What advice do you have, Angie, for companies that is just starting out with digitalization tools?
Mm. So two things, right? One is about mindset, like I shared, in my earlier reflection a little bit. Try out the new tools, which are free ones today. Don't wait for tomorrow. Try them out. You never know when it might come in handy. So that's one. They are free. So the question of budget should not be there. So the reason of you trying out, again, you should be exploring the different features, right, of the products, and since they are free, there's no reason to not try them out, other than allocating time to try them out. Second part is, I think what is very important is that although these tools are free, what will actually set them apart is the service level that you get, right? So find a free product which you can actually get the services. Someone who understands your business. I think that is very important. You don't just want some salesman to come in and tell you, hey, this tool is really good for you. Like, really? How good? Do you even understand what I'm going through at the moment? So ask the sales team, who are selling you these tools, ask them these questions, how is this going to solve my problem today? This is my use case, for instance. So I think as much as we need to try them out, we also need to prepare our use case a little bit so that we know what we're trying and we can learn from that experience, explore the features of the free tools.
Speaking about free tools, just a reminder, a shameless plug, that altHR is free until 31st of December of this year. Nahulan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think I'll just build on what Angie mentioned. It's really about identifying what's the core issue that you need to deal with, and whether this issue is pressing enough for you to actually attach value to it. So, for example, if it's something to do with your clients, on how you have to manage your clients while you're working from home, that's a big enough issue that needs to be there. So I think even if it's a free tool, or even if it's a tool that you have to spend a little bit of money on, but if you see that value in actually building the relationship towards your customer, these things you need to put into place. It's not a question about limited resources. Yes, limited resources, but find the tool that fits. It's not like also what Angie said, it's not just a salesperson coming to you and saying, hey, I've got this, use it. It's no, okay, I've got these questions I need to answer. Can your system actually help me do that? That's on the side with the clients. Then there's also sides with you engaging with your employees. So in this case, whether it's HR related things, it's health and safety related things, whether it's project management related things, there are tools out there. It just depends on what value you perceive that it should bring to your organization.
Mm.
Thank you, Nahulan. Good point about value. So a question from Places Media. For a small SME, how do I keep my team accountable while working remotely? I think this is something we mentioned earlier. Angie, what do you think?
I think at the core of it, every company has its values, right? So what is the value and the culture that you drive in your team in this case? So in Digi, we talk a lot about our values, and I'm not going to talk about the 4 values here. It's irrelevant. But at the core of it, it's also a little bit about reminding your team to be ethical. That I trust you. Please also earn the trust. In some ways, candid conversations is very important. And I think as leaders or as SME owner, I think it's also our job to make sure that we practice tight, loose, tight. You set your target, you lay down your expectations clearly. A lot of the time, there is a gap in terms of expectations management, right? So tight, loose, tight, set your targets clearly, and then empower the team, to be accountable. Let them explore ways, and along the way, when they discover the way to actually hit your targets, they may fail. Please forgive them, and help them come back up again. So that's what I mean by a little bit on tight, loose, tight. You set the targets hard, empower them, and then make sure that you embrace the conclusion or the finalization together with them, the delivery itself. At the core of this, at the foundation of all this, is really about building trust and making sure that the communications is super clear.
Definitely, trust is a two-way street. Nahulan, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, for sure. More on the empowering side. So here again, when your team is empowered, they don't find excuses of not getting things done. So it's whether you're empowering them through tools, through communication, through allowing them to explore different things and failing to a certain extent. This is very important. So, for example, my team and I, we deal with a lot of SME clients, whether it's on Omni and altHR. They've got multiple requests coming through. This we need to figure out how to fix this, or we've got a new requirement. How can your team help us do it? It's about getting everyone on the same page of seeing, okay, these are the main things that we need to work on, assigning tasks to people, and also assigning people to know, okay, these are the tasks that I need to get done by a certain day, having check-ins with them, regular check-ins. So for example, in DGX, we've also got mandatory daily check-ins that we do. It's not a phone call, but it's a place for you to post what you did for the day or what you did even for the week, or what are you working on this week, just so that everyone sees, and if they can even help you in certain areas, they can take that initiative straight away to see, okay, you're working on this one, I'm working on something similar, let's have a discussion about it. So it's really about empowering people with the right tools to make sure everyone knows they're on the same page. So there isn't any excuse really like, I don't know, I don't have access to this, I can't do that. It's very much there and available.
Sounds great. Thank you. On to the next question by Ibrahim. He wants to ask, how do we make virtual team meetings and one-on-ones more effective? Sometimes the camera is not on or it's hard to communicate. I think we have some experience with this. Angie, could you share some of it?
Yeah, so in the beginning, during MCO, right, we try to get everyone to turn on the camera, just to have FaceTime, right? To have FaceTime. But we ran into a problem because when you have like 1,500 people on video, it takes up a lot of capacity in the network, and then it's not stable. So then some ground rules. So along the way, we also learn, right? So in the larger settings, you can flash the video in the beginning for like say 10 seconds and say hello, and then when the agenda is on, you turn it off so that it caters to the network capacity. Then for me personally, what has worked is so that worked for the team meetings, right, in a larger context, I think. But for one-to-one, I am one of those leaders who is still insisted on face-to-face, because that FaceTime is important. However much you think it may not be relevant, we have this tool, that at the end of the day, we are still human beings, right? So that FaceTime is still very important. That has worked for one-to-one. short one-to-ones, 15, 30 minutes engagements. Hey, how are you doing? Still okay? Any challenges today? Quick question. It doesn't necessarily have to be about work all the time. Yeah.
Definitely, we need that human connection. Now, Hulen, anything to add?
No, couldn't agree more. I think whether it's a large team or a small team, make it a point that everyone turns on their video, even if it's for a short while, just to see your face. It's very important. I think it's almost like a back end process at the back of your brain to know that someone's actually watching you. So it's too important for you to keep doing, really.
Okay, do we have a new question? All right, from David. I prefer employees to work at office, but some want to work from home. How to manage this since I cannot force? What do you think, Angie?
For us in Digi's context, right, we have a business continuity plan in place, but I guess that that decision is a lot more flexible on the SME owner side. Again, for companies to be ready to work from home, you have to have the tools to allow that. So I think some companies, some SMEs may be ready already. It's more of a trust issue, but then some are probably still finding out what tools to adopt before you even provide this option, right? So I think it has to be studied in a more holistic manner, and it can't just be a plug from the sky. Today I feel like allowing you to work from home, but I don't equip you with the tools. So I think as SME owner, I think we need to think through, on the enabling side, because people can only do so much. But these days, we should always, mix people and technology together in that sense.
Now, Hulen, what about you from your experience with dealing with some of our SME customers?
Definitely. In this case, I think it's very much about understanding your nature of business. If your business is something that requires you to constantly engage your clients, meet them, better to be at the office for clients to walk in, maybe you've got that sort of a business where people come into your office, then it's about setting rules in place that look, okay, this is the nature of our business. We need you in the office for so on these number of days, right? But of course, it's also being flexible enough to say, okay, look, maybe on Mondays we don't have clients come in, or on Fridays we don't have clients come in. Can you let your employees work from home? There should be that flexibility to say, yes, it is possible, because they already have the tools in place to continue to engage the client in the first place. So I think for SMEs, really, this is really a question on understanding your business and what needs to be done. Even when it comes to adopting the tools that are here to help your business, if you're an SME that meets clients all the time, some tools may not work for you, even though they check this box, but it's not ideal enough, because you're capturing things while speaking to a client face to face. Very different. So yes, of course, you cannot force. I think at this point in time, you cannot force, but it's making sure your employees understand what your business is trying to do.
All right, thank you, Nahulen. I hope that answers your question, David. I think we only have time for one more question. Let's see it. So from June JC, I see any tips for what tools are good and free, at least for a starter like us, so for small SMEs. What do you think, Nahulen?
Yeah, I think right here, right now, altHR, it is free until the end of the year. So no excuse, really. If you want to give a system a try, especially on the side of managing your employees, or if you're still submitting paper submissions for your expenses, for your leaves, try this tool out. It's free. It's just an app on your phone, and then you've also got the admin side that can go and have a look on all the submissions. And even as a manager, you can see everything, even the pictures of the receipt, and you can approve it on the go if you need to. And if there's any announcements, you can make it directly. So I think that's on the side of your employees. On the side of course, your relationship with your clients, then you've got to see, again, understanding your business. What is it that you need? Would it be even as simple as signing up for G Suite, where you've got your Google Sheets, Google Excel, Google Sheets, Google Word doc, just for you to be able to post everything and everyone can see what's going on at the same point. Or you can restrict access, remove access. Simple things first. And then you see how you need to adapt to the changes that are happening.
So it goes back to one statement, right? What problem are you trying to solve first? What is the top of your mind? Yeah.
Angie, anything else to add?
Nope.
Okay. So, all right, that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you very much again to our two wonderful guests. And of course,
Thank
not to
you.
forget all of you tuning in. If you have any more questions that we were unable to address during this webinar, please feel free to email us at hello@althr.my. Before you leave, just another reminder to fill up your information in the QR code or link provided in the description below or within the live chat also. Our next webinar is coming up in the near future. You can stay tuned to our webinars page for more information. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. Take care, stay safe, and we hope to see you again.